Welcome to another episode of Thailand Truth Talks, Episode 2, The Opportunist, When Hustle Becomes Harm. A traveler was detained at Bangkok immigration last month after following a nonchalant YouTuber's visa-run playbook. The rules haven't changed on paper, but the enforcement has. And the fallout is only beginning. Your favorite travel creator is lying to you. Not with what they say, but with what they leave out. Last episode, we examined the most calculated creators, the ones who weaponize psychology, build conversion funnels out of human vulnerability, and turn manipulation into an art form. Today, the target shifts. We're looking at something quieter, softer, and in many ways, even more dangerous precisely because it doesn't look dangerous at all. We're talking about the opportunists, creators who aren't malicious by intent but are perfectly willing to profit from the gray zones. The ones who insist they're just sharing their journey, just being real, just showing their life. And they believe it. That's what makes them so effective. They've convinced themselves that if the algorithm rewards them, if people are watching, if the money is flowing, then they must be doing something right. This is the story of a specific kind of creator, not the mastermind from episode 1, but the hustler, the guy who sees every experience as content, every friendship as a collaboration opportunity, every mistake as engagement bait, the guy who's turned his entire existence into a monetization funnel without ever admitting that's what he's done. If episode 1 was about calculated predators, episode 2 is about something more common and perhaps more relatable. It's about what happens when someone optimizes their life for views and forgets to ask whether that optimization is hurting anyone else. It's about the difference between living and performing life. And it's about why that difference matters more than most creators want to admit. You've probably seen him. Maybe you've watched his videos. Hell, maybe you've defended him in the comments when someone suggested what he was doing might be problematic. Because here's the thing about opportunistic creators. They're likable. They're charismatic. They make you feel like you're part of something. And that's exactly what makes them work. Let's talk about Roberto. Roberto versus the world. Swedish creator. Hundreds of thousands of subscribers. Millions of views. On the surface, he's just a guy with a camera living the life people dream about. Traveling constantly, meeting people, having adventures. No boss, no schedule. Just freedom and the open road. That's the brand. That's the sell. And from a certain angle, it looks genuine. He started vlogging in Swedish back in 2019, then switched to English in 2022, exploding his channel to over 100,000 subscribers in months. He films himself going to bars, talking to strangers, flirting with women, partying until dawn. His tagline is authentic chaos, the unfiltered male experience abroad. And his audience loves it because it feels real. No corporate polish, no sanitized messaging, just Roberto being Roberto. But here's what you need to understand. The moment you're performing authenticity, it stops being authentic. And Roberto performs it constantly. Every late night stream, every controversial moment, every boundary pushed just far enough to get a reaction. It's all content. It's all calculated. Even if the calculation happens instinctively now. He's been doing this long enough that he doesn't need to think about what gets views. He just knows. And Thailand? Thailand is his golden goose. The place where the content writes itself. Where every night out becomes a story. Every interaction becomes a thumbnail. Every risk becomes engagement. He's not the first creator to figure this out. And he won't be the last. But he's refined it to a science. The pattern is everywhere once you know what to look for. He arrives in a new city, usually Pattaya or Bangkok. Within hours, he's live streaming from bars, clubs, or walking the streets. The energy is always high, always chaotic, always just on the edge of something happening. He talks to everyone: ladyboys, bar girls, tourists, locals. Everyone becomes part of the content machine. Everyone gets pulled into Roberto's world, whether they fully understand what that means or not. And here's where it gets interesting. Roberto doesn't sell courses like the creators from episode 1. He doesn't have a $2,000 visa blueprint or a mastermind group. His monetization is more mercenary, more scattered, more opportunistic. Casino affiliate links in the stream, merchandise drops, a Patreon with exclusive behind-the-scenes content that's often more explicit than what YouTube allows. A bar he opened in Koh Samui called Fruten Fraten, after his catchphrase. Every piece of content funnels somewhere. Every video has a call to action, even if it's subtle. A pattern visible across his channels shows multiple revenue funnels, affiliate links, merch, Patreon, and a bar that doubles as free marketing. The bar is content, brand extension, and a revenue stream rolled into one. A physical space where followers can visit, spend money, and become part of the story themselves. This is what separates opportunistic creators from the truly insidious ones. They're not building elaborate schemes. They're just relentlessly good at turning everything into revenue. Every interaction, every controversy, every moment of their life. And they do it with a smile and a shrug, like, hey, I'm just trying to make a living doing what I love. Who could argue with that? Except, here's the problem. When your entire existence is monetized, when every experience is content, when every person you meet is a potential collaboration or a thumbnail moment, you stop being a participant in culture and start being an extractor. You stop asking what you're contributing and start focusing only on what you're taking. And in a place like Thailand, where power dynamics already skew heavily toward foreign visitors, that extraction has consequences. Let's talk about what those consequences look like, not theoretically, not in the abstract. Let's talk about what happens when a creator with hundreds of thousands of followers normalizes certain behaviors, certain attitudes, certain ways of engaging with a place and its people. Roberto's content is built on the premise that Thailand is easy to navigate, easy to enjoy, easy to live in without rules or restrictions. He shows himself riding motorbikes without helmets, partying in areas where foreigners technically shouldn't be filming, navigating visa situations with a wink and a nudge. The message is constant. Come here, live free, figure it out. Even when the consequences are off camera. Here's the problem. In November of 2025, Thailand's Immigration Bureau ordered strict enforcement of existing regulations. The rules were always there. Now Thailand is enforcing them. Immigration officers now actively deny entry after 2 visa runs without justifiable reason. Visa exemption extensions are limited to 2 per calendar year. Provincial offices are denying extensions and revoking visas for anyone with a history of visa run abuse. This isn't Thailand creating new restrictions. This is Thailand saying, we gave you legitimate visa options for an entire year. Now stop gaming the tourist system. Thailand spent 2024 rolling out proper long-term visa options like the Destination Thailand visa. They gave everyone a legitimate path. And some people still choose to keep doing border runs because it was easier, because YouTubers made it look normal, because the old way always worked before, until it didn't. When rules change, consequences stop being theoretical and start being painfully concrete. This is not a cautionary paragraph. It's a mirror. Look into it. You saw the headline. Detained at Bangkok immigration, you felt a chill. Now, imagine that was the end of a line, not the exception, but the result of a system that taught someone to gamble with their life. People don't wind up at an immigration desk because they're reckless. They end up there because someone taught them it was a risk worth taking on camera. Roberto's content didn't create curiosity, it weaponized it. It turned small risks into stage props, and then sold a ticket to viewers hungry for the same adrenaline. The algorithm rewarded the stunt. Followers copied it. The social cost landed on ordinary people and local workers who never asked to be extras. This episode is about consequences you can measure. Bank balances emptied, relationships shredded, bans stamped into passports. But it's also about the quieter damage. Dignity eroded, communities turned into sets, human beings reduced to punchlines in the stream chat. That's the extractive math behind the hustle. Clicks convert to cash, and cash converts to indifference. So, what does responsibility look like? It's simple and inconvenient. Transparency, contingency, and repair. Show your receipts. Show the mornings. Tell viewers when a gamble almost cost you everything. Pay for the harm you create, even if the law doesn't force you. When creators can't be bothered to show the ledger, the rest of us should. Before you see the composite story that follows, remember this. A thumbnail is not a contract. A smiling face on a screen is not a guarantee. If you learn one thing from episode 1, let it be this. Follow the money, and the rest will make sense. Demand better, right now. Consider this composite, pulled from public travel forums and a string of follower posts. A 26-year-old who quit his job, bought a one-way ticket, and tried to copy Roberto's playbook. He did the border runs the video made look easy, streamed late nights, and burned through his savings on flights and hostels. On his third entry, an immigration officer pulled him aside. After hours of questioning, he was denied re-entry for months. He lost rent and deposits. His short-term relationship dissolved. And he flew home exhausted and broke. That pattern shows up again and again in public accounts. Not because creators are malicious, but because the curriculum they model leaves out the costs. A thumbnail doesn't show contingency funds, visa paperwork, or the legal advice needed when things go wrong. The harm lands locally too. Small businesses see an initial bump when creators put a place on the map, but that visibility often brings strain. Owners end up managing crowds who treat the venue like a film set. People walk into kitchens, disrupt service, and expect to be filmed. Workers face more requests to recreate viral moments. What was once a job becomes a backdrop for someone else's brand. A family-run restaurant that once served neighbors now spends money on extra staff, security, and cleanup. Those are real costs that never appear in vlogs. At scale, these frictions trigger policy reactions. When borderline behavior becomes common and visible, authorities respond, sometimes bluntly. Enforcement tightens, and both the naive and the resourceful face consequences. The people harmed first are rarely the creators packing up for the next city. They're the followers who spent their savings and the local workers whose neighborhoods were repurposed as content zones. So, what can you do right now? One small public action. Open your Notes app and list 3 creators you follow. For each, write every revenue stream you can identify. Name one group that benefits besides the creator, and note a voice you never hear in their videos. Post the results with hashtag #MapYourCreators and tag this channel. Turning private fandom into public mapping is a tiny lever, but incentives shift when watching becomes accountable. But if you watch Roberto's content, you wouldn't know how serious this shift is. Oh, he might mention it in passing, might joke about immigration being more strict, but he never stops performing the dream. That's not Roberto's fault directly. He's not telling people to break laws, but he's creating a cultural narrative where bending rules looks savvy rather than risky, where consequences stay off camera, where failures never make the highlight reel. This is the core problem with opportunistic content creators. They cherry-pick reality. They show you the fun parts, the wild nights, the adventures, not the guy who followed their example and is now banned from Thailand for 3 years, not the relationships that fell apart because they were built on transactional dynamics disguised as a genuine connection, not the locals exhausted by foreigners treating their home like a theme park. Roberto isn't waking up plotting exploitation. He's doing what the algorithm rewards. He found a formula that works and he's writing it. That's the opportunist playbook. Not malicious, just mercenary. And the problem with being mercenary is you stop asking whether you should do something and only ask whether you can. Let's talk about the women, because this is where Roberto's content gets really complicated. A huge part of his brand is nightlife. Bars, clubs, interactions with Thai women, often in contexts where those interactions are part of a broader entertainment economy. And he films all of it. He turns every conversation, every flirtation, every moment into content. Now, he'll say it's all consensual. Everyone knows they're on camera. Everyone's having fun. And maybe that's true in the moment, but context matters. Power dynamics matter. The fact that he's a foreign creator with hundreds of thousands of subscribers and they're local workers in an industry built on economic necessity, that matters. And when he frames these interactions as effortless romance, as proof that dating in Thailand is just easier, he's not documenting culture. He's selling a fantasy that erases the economic realities underneath it. Recent investigations, including the BBC's documentary on Thailand's sex tourism, show how Western influencers have built careers teaching men to navigate Bangkok's red light districts. Yet these shows often depend on the financial vulnerability of local women. Roberto's not unique in this. There's a whole ecosystem of creators doing the same thing. But he's particularly effective at it because he's so charismatic, so seemingly genuine, that viewers don't interrogate what they're watching. They just enjoy the show. And that's the trick, isn't it? Opportunistic creators are good at making exploitation look like adventure, at making extraction look like exchange, at making you feel like you're watching someone live freely when what you're actually watching is someone monetizing every interaction they have. The bar is a content funnel. Fruiten Fratten drives traffic that benefits Roberto directly, while his audience funds the dream they think they're participating in. Here's what really gets me. The viewers who fly to Thailand specifically to meet Roberto, to drink at his bar, to maybe get in a video, they're spending real money. Flights, hotels, bar tabs, merchandise, maybe a Patreon subscription so they can see the unfiltered stuff. And what do they get? A handshake? A selfie? Maybe 5 seconds in a live stream where Roberto barely remembers their name? Then they go home and tell everyone about how cool Roberto is, how real he is, how he's living the dream. But Roberto isn't their friend. He's their product. They paid to be the part of his content ecosystem. They funded his lifestyle. And the beautiful thing, from a business perspective, is they don't even realize it. They think they participated in something authentic. They think they connected with someone genuine. But authentic connection doesn't have a price tag. It doesn't have affiliate links. It doesn't get cut into a video with a thumbnail designed to maximize clicks. Think about the psychology here. Roberto's audience is predominantly young men. Guys who feel stuck. Guys who hate their jobs. Guys who look at their lives and think there has to be more than this. And Roberto shows them more. He shows them freedom, adventure, women, parties, a life without constraints. And he makes it look attainable. Just quit your job, buy a camera, Go to Thailand. Be yourself. Easy. Except it's not easy. What Roberto doesn't show you is the decade of trial and error it took to build an audience, the luck involved in hitting the algorithm at the right time, the financial cushion that allowed him to take risks, the personality traits that happened to work on camera, the willingness to exploit every situation for content. Most people can't replicate that. Most people who try end up broke, alone, and back home within 6 months. But those failure stories don't get told. They don't get views. They don't fit the narrative. So Roberto keeps selling the dream, and his audience keeps buying it, and the cycle continues. And when someone does fail, when someone does follow the blueprint and crash, Roberto isn't there. He's already moved on to the next city, the next party, the next piece of content. Roberto profits from an industry built on inequality. Not sometimes, not accidentally, constantly. His most popular content features women who are there because they need money. They're smiling because that's the job. They're friendly because that's how they survive. And he films it, he packages it, he monetizes it. Then he calls it authentic cultural exchange. And his audience eats it up because they want to believe the fantasy. They want to believe that these women genuinely like them, that the attention isn't transactional, that love and romance in Thailand are just different, more genuine, less complicated than back home. But scratch the surface and it's the same story everywhere. Money changes hands. Power is exchanged. Someone wins. Someone loses. And the person with the camera is always the one winning. This isn't abstract criticism. This is about real people. Real women whose faces are broadcast to hundreds of thousands of viewers without adequate compensation or protection. Real men who waste their savings chasing a lifestyle that doesn't exist outside of carefully edited videos. Real communities that get reduced to backdrops in someone else's content machine. And Roberto shrugs and says he's just documenting his life, just being real, just showing what's possible. And what's possible for a charismatic Swedish guy with a 6-figure audience and multiple revenue streams is not what's possible for the average viewer. That's the con. Not that he's faking the fun, but that he's suggesting you can have it too if you just follow his example. You can't. The game is rigged, and he's one of the people rigging it. Now let's talk about the community Roberto's built, because that's where the defense shield kicks in. Roberto has cultivated a loyal following, people who watch every stream, join his Patreon, plan trips to Thailand specifically to meet him or visit his bar. These aren't just viewers, they're believers. And when criticism emerges, when someone points out the problematic elements, these believers become his unpaid PR team. You see it in the comments. Someone says, "Hey, maybe it's not great to film women without properly explaining how this content will be used." Immediately, 10 people jump in. Roberto's just being real. He's not hurting anyone. You're just jealous. If you don't like it, don't watch. The creator doesn't even have to respond. His community does the work for him. Once you've invested time, money, or identity into a creator, criticism feels like criticism of you. Your judgment gets questioned. Your choices get scrutinized. Nobody likes that feeling. So you double down. You defend. You attack the critic. The creator keeps making content, keeps making money, never has to address the substantive concerns because his community already shut down the conversation. This is how opportunistic creators maintain their position, even as evidence of harm piles up. They don't need to be particularly smart or strategic, just consistent and charismatic. The algorithm and community take care of the rest. So, what do you do with this information? How do you watch content like Roberto's without getting pulled into the narrative? Here's the framework. First, always ask who benefits from the content existing. Not cynically, just practically. When Roberto films a night out in Pattaya, who profits? He does. Through ad revenue, affiliate links, Patreon subs, bar traffic. Bar owners do, through visibility. Who doesn't benefit? Often the people on camera who aren't getting paid, who didn't understand how their image would be used, and who have no control over the narrative once it's published. Second, notice what's absent. Roberto's highlights are carefully curated. You see the successes, the parties, the adventures, not the mornings after, not the costs, not the people who tried to replicate his lifestyle and failed, not the legal troubles resolved off camera. Cherry-picked reality isn't reality. It's advertising. Treat it as such. Third, interrogate the urgency. Opportunistic creators thrive on FOMO. Come to Thailand now while it's still cheap. Visit my bar before it gets too crowded. Join my Patreon before I close enrollment. Every call to action carries implicit pressure. But here's the truth. Real opportunities don't expire overnight. Real advice doesn't require immediate action. If someone's pushing urgency, they're trying to bypass your critical thinking. Don't let them. Fourth, follow the money. Roberto's entire ecosystem moves you from free content to paid transactions. YouTube to Patreon, Patreon to bar visits to merchandise. Every step deepens your financial commitment. That's not inherently wrong, but it should be transparent. When it's disguised as friendship or community, you're being sold to without being told. That's manipulation, even soft manipulation. Fifth, remember you're not immune to this. Opportunistic creators tap into real desires, freedom, adventure, escape, a life that looks different from the grind. Those desires are valid, but the version of freedom Roberto sells isn't real freedom. It's freedom as performance, liberation as brand. The moment you live your life for content, you've traded one set of constraints for another. You swap the boss for an algorithm. And the algorithm never sleeps and is never satisfied. So what's the alternative? How do you engage with Thailand authentically without becoming either a victim of opportunistic creators or one yourself? You start by slowing down. Recognize that every decision doesn't need to be made in 10 seconds based on a video thumbnail. You triangulate information, check embassy websites, immigration law firms, licensed agents. Treat creator content as one data point among many, not as gospel. Engage with local perspectives, not just foreign ones. Ask questions like, how does this look like from the other side? Who's not at the table when these decisions are being made? What voices are missing? You also practice media literacy. Learn to spot the difference between documentation and performance, between information and entertainment, between someone sharing knowledge and someone monetizing your attention. These are skills. They can be developed, and they're essential for navigating the creator economy without getting exploited. Look, Thailand is still Thailand. Beautiful country, incredible experiences, genuine relationships, a different kind of life. But the version you see in Roberto's videos isn't the whole story. It's a curated slice designed to maximize engagement and revenue. Base your decisions on that curated slice, and you'll run into problems that never made it into the content. The visa enforcement that kicked in November 2025 proves the point. Thailand spent 2024 giving people legitimate long-term options. Then they started enforcing the rules that were always there. The era of indefinite border bounces ended. But if you're only watching opportunistic creators, you might not understand how serious that shift is until you're the one being denied entry. That's the danger. Not that Roberto's actively trying to hurt you, but that he's optimizing for metrics that don't include your well-being. Views, clicks, engagement, revenue, those are the numbers that matter. Whether his content leads to good outcomes for his audience, not tracked, not monetized, not prioritized. This isn't just about Roberto. It's about understanding the entire opportunistic creator archetype. They're everywhere, every niche, every country. Thailand just happens to be particularly rich ground because the contrasts are stark. The freedom, the affordability, the nightlife, the cultural differences, great content. And when great content is the goal, truth becomes flexible. We're 2 episodes in, and a pattern is emerging. Whether we're talking about insidious manipulators from episode 1 or opportunistic hustlers from episode 2, the core issue is the same. Misaligned incentives. Creators get rewarded for keeping you watching, not for telling you the truth, for making you feel something, not for making you think carefully, for turning your dreams into their paychecks, not for helping you achieve those dreams sustainably. The solution isn't to stop watching creators, it's to watch differently, consume critically, ask questions, verify claims, recognize when you're being sold to, and decide whether you want to buy. Because here's the thing, you have power in this dynamic. Creators need viewers more than viewers need any individual creator. If enough people demand transparency, reward creators who correct their mistakes, and refuse to engage with exploitative content, the incentive structure shifts, slowly, but it shifts. That's the reckoning we're building toward. Not cancellation, not witch hunts, just clarity. A collective decision to see the machinery for what it is and stop pretending it's something else. Roberto will keep making content, fine, but you don't have to consume it uncritically. You don't have to let his narrative become your reality. You don't have to mistake his performance for your path. Next episode, we're hitting the neutral creators, the ones who aren't deliberately manipulating anyone but aren't particularly dedicated to truth either. The ones writing the algorithm, creating what gets views because it gets views. They're the majority, the background noise, and understanding how they work matters just as much as understanding the manipulators and opportunists. But right now, take action. Open your Notes app, map 3 creators, list how they make money, who benefits, and one voice you never hear. Post with hashtag #MapYourCreators and tag this channel. This is Thailand Truth Talks. If this episode made you uncomfortable, good. That means you're paying attention. Hit subscribe, share this with someone who needs to hear it, and come back next episode when we dissect the neutral middle. Until then, stay critical, stay curious, and more importantly, stay in control of your own narrative.